My name is Amber, and I want you to picture this. Halloween night, the moon high, jack-o'-lanterns glowing on every porch, and your older brother standing at your doorstep with 3 shrieking children in superhero costumes. Only this time when he rings the bell, a complete stranger answers the door. The panic on his face? Worth every stolen Halloween for the past 10 years. But let's rewind, because you have to understand how satisfying that moment really was. Halloween used to belong to me. It was the one night of the year that felt mine, when I could transform into anything I wanted and feel that wild autumn freedom. In high school, I'd run through endless neighborhoods under cold skies, laughing with friends until our pillowcases burst with candy. The smell of wet leaves and candle-heated pumpkin lids, those were my first childhood perfumes. Then came adulthood. Responsibilities, work, rent. And slowly, Halloween stopped feeling exciting. Not because I'd outgrown it, but because it stopped being mine. It became Kevin's annual excuse for free babysitting. Kevin, my charming, self-centered older brother, had married his college sweetheart Jennifer right after graduation. By the time I was 25, they were up to 3 kids in less time than it takes to pick an insurance plan. Emma, 8, Tyler, 6, and little Sophia, 4, cute, chaotic, and full of endless questions. Don't get me wrong, I adore those kids. I love their toothy grins and their sticky hands clutching candy corn like treasure. But every October 31st for nearly a decade, they became more my responsibility than Kevin's. It started as a one-time favor. Their first Halloween as parents, they'd wanted just one night out, a costume party with friends. Jennifer's voice had wobbled as she asked me, "Just this once, Amber. We haven't been out in months. Please?" How could I say no? I was the fun aunt, the single one, the one who should have free time. So I agreed. But just this once became, "Well, you always do such a great job. Then, you don't have plans anyway." And eventually their tone shifted entirely. It wasn't a request anymore. It was a routine. Now every year, 3 days before Halloween, I'd get the same call. "Amber, we'll drop the kids off around 6. Our party starts at 7. No, could you? No, are you free? Just a decree from on high, as predictable as the changing leaves." And every time, if I tried to push back, Kevin's guilt tactics came rolling in slick and smooth. "Come on, Amber. You don't have kids? What are you doing that's so important? Sitting home watching movies?" Or the worst one, "The kids love spending time with you. Don't be that aunt." He always made me feel like I was selfish for wanting my own life. To everyone else, he spun it like I loved babysitting. During family gatherings, Kevin would brag about how he and Jennifer were such a great team at balancing family and fun. He made himself sound like the world's most involved parent. Meanwhile, I was the conveniently available sister who doesn't mind helping. Our parents didn't make it easier. They'd retired to Florida 3 years ago in pursuit of early bird dinners and golf courses and only ever called to check in. "Honey," Mom would say in her breezy tone, "you should feel lucky to have those kids close by. Kevin works so hard, and you love Halloween anyway." Lucky. Right. Each time I hung up the phone, resentment burned hotter, but I still kept showing up for Emma's fairy wings, Tyler's pirate costumes, Sophia's candy-filled giggles. Because as much as I dreaded being their free nanny, I loved the magic in their eyes too much to ruin it. Still, resentment is like carbonation. It builds pressure until one day the cap flies off. This Halloween, the year everything snapped, I finally had plans of my own. For the first time in almost a decade, I'd met someone who understood my Halloween obsession. Steven. 8 months together, and already he'd matched my enthusiasm costume for costume. He was going as a vampire count, complete with tailored black cape and silver fangs. I'd spent 3 weeks hand-sewing a deep emerald witch gown covered in tiny beads that shimmered like stars. We even had tickets to the Harvest Moon masquerade downtown. Live jazz band, crafted cocktails, twinkling chandeliers. It was supposed to be our night. Stephen had been watching me assemble the gown after work, smiling every time I stuck myself with a pin. "I've never seen anyone this excited for a holiday," he said, "because no one ever let me be." Then, 3 days before Halloween, my phone lit up with Kevin's name. My heart sank even before I answered. "Hey, Amber," he said in that lazy, cheerful voice that always meant trouble. "You're good for Halloween night, right? Jennifer found tickets to some masquerade ball downtown. Supposed to be incredible. We'll drop the kids off around 6. I hit pause on the spreadsheet in front of me and closed my eyes. "Kevin, I actually have plans this year. I'm really sorry, but He laughed. The sound wasn't friendly, it was mocking. "Plans? You? Come on, Amber, don't be dramatic. It's one night." "Kevin, it's not just one night. It's every Halloween for 8 years. I have tickets, we have costumes. Stephen and I are going to the—" "Oh," he interrupted, voice full of exaggerated amusement. "This new boyfriend of yours, right? Bring him. Kids love meeting new people. Problem solved." My throat tightened. "Kevin, it's not that simple. I'm not free. I already made plans." He snorted down the line. "Amber, you think you're busy, but you don't have responsibilities. We've already told people we're coming. Jennifer bought a dress. You can't bail now." "I'm not bailing," I said, gripping my phone. "You never even asked me." There was an edge in his voice now, sharp and defensive. "Because you always say yes. What difference does it make? It's not like you've got kids of your own to worry about. And honestly, the kids would rather be with you anyway. No offense. But you turn Halloween into a whole production. You like it more than we do." That slam landed like a gut punch. He was turning my passion into a weakness, twisting it to justify his entitlement. "Kevin," I said slowly, "please. Just once, can you find someone else? Maybe Linda from down the—" He cut me off. "Are you seriously going to make this difficult? Mom and Dad always said you should step up more for the family. We can't take 3 kids to a masquerade ball. Come on." There it was, the trump card, the family guilt grenade, the one he always threw when reason didn't work. But this time, the explosion didn't hit where he thought it would. Instead of guilt, what I felt was clarity. A cold, perfect kind of calm. For the first time in almost a decade, something inside me aligned. He'd mistaken my silence for weakness, my reliability for consent, but I was done being Kevin's permanent safety net. "You're right," I said finally, voice steady as glass. "I'll take care of it." He exhaled, smug. "Knew I could count on you. We'll drop them at 6. "Perfect," I said, and hung up. But I wasn't agreeing. Not this time. I was planning. The moment my phone hit the desk, my pulse kicked into overdrive. Not anxious, but energized. For once, I wasn't rearranging my life to meet Kevin's stubborn expectations. I was strategizing how to dismantle them completely. By that afternoon, I had a notepad filled with ideas, columns, arrows, possible allies, and one goal written at the top in bold ink: teach Kevin a lesson he'll never forget. The next morning, I called in sick to work and rolled up my sleeves. I had one day to turn my payback into a plan. First step, find a replacement he wouldn't dare complain about. So I picked up the phone and called Patricia from accounting. She's the kind of person who knows everyone, the mastermind of office potlucks. "Pat," I said, keeping my voice casual, "your daughter's still studying education, right? Susan?" Pat perked up immediately. "Yes, she's doing her practicum this semester. Why?" I smiled so wide it almost hurt. "Because I think I have the perfect side job for her. Halloween night babysitting." Patricia had mentioned that Susan was looking for babysitting gigs to earn extra money. When I explained the situation, carefully leaving out their venge aspect. Patricia was more than happy to help. Susan loves kids, and she could use the money, Patricia assured me. She's been babysitting since she was 14 and she's CPR certified. Your brother's children will be in great hands. I arranged to pay Susan $150 for the evening, more than generous for a few hours of work, but worth every penny for my peace of mind. We met at a coffee shop so I could give her my spare key and walk her through everything, where the kids' pajamas were, what snacks they liked, bedtimes, emergency numbers. Susan was enthusiastic and responsible, asking all the right questions and taking detailed notes. Just to be clear, I told her, my brother doesn't know you're coming. He thinks I'll be there. When he arrives, introduce yourself as the babysitter I hired. If he refuses to leave the kids with you, that's his choice. He can take them with him or consult his plans. But under no circumstances should you feel pressured to take them if he says no. Suzanne nodded, her expression serious. Got it, and you'll be at that masquerade thing. That's the plan, I said, feeling giddy with anticipation. Next, I booked Stephen and me a hotel room downtown, just a few blocks from the Whitmore Hotel where the masquerade was being held. We'd stay the night, order room service for breakfast, and make a whole romantic weekend out of it. I spent Halloween Day getting ready like it was my wedding day. I took a long bath with lavender oils, did my makeup with painstaking precision, and carefully arranged my hair in an elaborate updo that complemented my witch costume. When I slipped into the gothic dress I'd spent weeks perfecting, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. I looked powerful. I looked free. Stephen picked me up at 4:00, his vampire costume making him look dangerously handsome. You look incredible, he breathed when he saw me. Are you ready for this? More ready than I've been for anything in my entire life, I replied. We drove downtown, checked into our hotel, and had dinner at a romantic little bistro before heading to the masquerade. With every passing hour, my phone stayed blissfully silent. No desperate calls from Kevin, no guilt trips from Jennifer, no emergency texts about meltdowns or accidents, just freedom. At exactly 6 gang, while Stephen and I were sipping champagne in our hotel room and putting the finishing touches on our costumes, Kevin was knocking on my apartment door with 3 tired, sugar-seeking kids in tow. But instead of finding his reliable sister, ready to sacrifice another Halloween, he found Susan. I wish I could have seen Kevin's face when Susan opened my apartment door. According to Susan, who texted me updates throughout the evening, the conversation went something like this. Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Susan, the babysitter Amber hired for tonight. Kevin apparently stood there for a full 10 seconds, his brain trying to process what he was seeing. Emma, Tyler, and Sophia were tugging on his hands, excited to start trick-or-treating while he stared at this cheerful stranger in disbelief. Where's Amber? He finally managed. She'd plans tonight, so she hired me to watch the kids. She left detailed instructions and my contact information. You can drop them off with me, or if you're not comfortable with that, you can take them with you to your party. This is ridiculous. Kevin apparently muttered, pulling out his phone to call me. Of course, I didn't answer. Stephen and I were at the masquerade by then, dancing to a jazz quartet while costumed couples swirled around us under crystal chandeliers. My phone was tucked safely in my purse, on silent, exactly where it belonged. Kevin tried calling 4 more times. Then he started texting. Amber, pick up your phone. This is not fun. Where the hell are you? The kids are scared and confused. That last text almost made me feel guilty, almost. But then I remembered 8 years of my own confusion and hurt. 8 years of being treated like I didn't matter, and I slipped my phone back into my purse. According to Susan's play-by-gay text, Kevin stood in my hallway for 15 minutes, frantically calling Jennifer to discuss their options. They could skip the party and stay home with the kids, or they could leave 3 children with a stranger, or they chose the worst possible option. Kevin loaded the kids back into his car and drove to the Whitmore Hotel, determined to make the masquerade work with 3 tired, cranky children in tow. Susan texted me around 8 hours. He took them with him. Can't believe it. Enjoy your party. And oh, did I ever. The Harvest Moon masquerade was everything I'd dreamed it would be. The historic hotel ballroom had been transformed into a gothic wonderland with elegant black and gold decorations, hundreds of candles, and costumed guests who looked like they'd stepped out of aromantic period drama. Stephen and I danced until my feet hurt, sampled decadent desserts, and took photos in front of an ornate mirror that made us look like characters in a fairy tale. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Not Kevin's emergency babysitter, not the family member who existed to solve other people's problems, but Amber, a woman who deserved beautiful evenings and romantic adventures and holidays that belonged to here. Meanwhile, across town at the same hotel, Kevin's evening was imploding spectacularly. I learned the details later through a combination of horrified texts from Jennifer and gleeful gossip from other family friends who'd been at the masquerade. Apparently, Emma, Tyler, and Sophia had arrived at the elegant party in full Halloween regalia. Emma as a fairy princess with glittery wings, Tyler as a superhero with a cape that kept getting caught on things, and Sophia as a tiny witch whose costume was already sticky with candy residue from an earlier trick-or-treat stop. The kids were initially excited to be at such a fancy grown-up party, but then novelty wore off quickly. The music was too loud. There were no other children, and the sophisticated cocktail party atmosphere was completely inappropriate for kids who should have been trick-or-treating through neighborhoods. Within an hour, Tyler had accidentally knocked over a tray of champagne glasses while trying to show off his superhero moves. Sophia started crying because she wanted to go home and watch Halloween movies. Emma got into an argument with another guest who told her that her costume was too childish for such an elegant event. By 9 all three kids were having simultaneous meltdowns in the hotel bathroom, while Jennifer desperately tried to calm them down, and Kevin stood in the hallway, making angry phone calls to me that I continued to ignore. The final straw came when Tyler threw up all over the marble floor of the hotel lobby, a combination of too much excitement, rich party food, and the stress of being dragged to an adult event when he should have been home in his pajamas. Hotel security asked them to leave. Kevin and Jennifer, dressed in their expensive masquerade costumes, had to carry 3 sobbing children through the hotel lobby while other guests stared and whispered. The romantic evening was over before 10 Siwang, and they hadn't even made it to the main ballroom where Stephen and I were having the time of our lives. The next morning, my phone exploded. Evan called at 7 a.m., his voice with fury. "Amber, what the hell was that? You humiliated us. Jennifer is crying. The kids are traumatized. And we looked like idiots in front of everyone we know." "Good morning to you too, Kevin," I said calmly, sipping coffee in my hotel room while Stephen slept peacefully beside me. "Don't you dare act casual about this. You knew we had plans. You knew how important this party was to us. I knew how important it was to you," I corrected. "Just like my plans were important to me. The difference is I hired a qualified babysitter and gave you options. You chose to drag 3 children to an adult party instead of accepting help or staying home. That babysitter was a stranger. We couldn't leave our kids with some random girl. Her name is Susan, and she's more qualified to watch children than I ever was. She's studying education. She's CPR certified and she had references. But you were so angry at losing control of the situation that you made a terrible decision." Jennifer apparently grabbed the phone at that point. "Amber, how could you do this to family? We trusted you." "You trusted that I'd always say yes," I replied. "You trusted that my time wasn't valuable, that my plans didn't matter, that I existed solely to solve your problems. That trust was misplaced." The conversation devolved into shouting, with Kevin calling me selfish and Jennifer crying about their ruined evening. But for the first time in 8 years, their guilt trips bounced off me like raindrops. Mom called from Florida that afternoon, her voice tight with disapproval. "Amber, Kevin told us what happened. I'm very disappointed in you. I'm disappointed too." I said, "I'm disappointed that it took me 8 years to stand up for myself. Those children needed you and you abandoned them. Those children have 2 parents who chose to drag them to an inappropriate venue, instead of staying home or accepting the childcare I'd arranged. Kevin's poor planning doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. For once in my life, Mom didn't have a comeback. That was 6 months ago, and Kevin hasn't asked me to babysit on Halloween since, or any other holiday for that matter. At first, I worried that I'd damaged our relationship irreparably, but slowly something interesting happened. Without the automatic assumption that I'd always be available, Kevin started actually asking for favors instead of demanding them. When he needed help, he offered to pay me or return the favor. Somehow, our interactions became more respectful, more balanced. Jennifer told me later that the whole experience had been a wake-up call for them. They'd realized how much they'd been taking advantage of my kindness, and how their own children had suffered because of their poor decision-making that night. This Halloween, Stephen and I are hosting our own party. We've invited friends, decorated our apartment with elaborate Halloween displays, and planned costume contests and horror movie marathons. For the first time in almost a decade, October 31st belongs to me again. Kevin and Jennifer are staying home with their kids this year, taking them trick-or-treating through their own neighborhood, and then settling in for a family movie night. Emma sent me a photo of their carved pumpkins with a text that said, "We miss having Halloween with Aunt Amber, but Mom and Dad are learning to make it fun, too." That message meant more to me than any apology Kevin could have offered. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't dramatic or explosive. Sometimes it's simply refusing to be taken for granted anymore. It's recognizing that your time has value, that your happiness matters, and that saying no to one thing means saying yes to something better. I learned that the scariest monsters aren't always the ones in Halloween costumes. Sometimes they're the family members who think they own your life simply because you've never taught them otherwise. And sometimes the sweetest treat of all is the moment you finally stop handing out pieces of yourself to people who never bothered to say thank you. If this story hits close to home, you're not alone. So many of us have family members who think our kindness means we're pushovers. Drop a comment telling me about a time you finally stood up to someone who was taking advantage of you. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this story on family boundaries and Halloween justice, smash that subscribe button because we've got more revenge stories that'll make you want to stand up and